Today is January 25th. That says 2012. We're on Chapter 7 test. Okay? We're going to skip right to question number 7. Oh. So, the question says, oh wow, the Robothams are buying a condominium. They have negotiated a selling price of $340,000. They'll make a down payment of 10% and arrange a mortgage for the rest at 5.1% per year, compounded semi-annually for 25 years. Determine the Robothams' monthly payment. So, what we're going to do here is we're going to set up our graphing calculators for what we're going to input into them. It says, first of all, that they're buying a condominium for $340,000. How large was the down payment they're putting on? 10%. So does that mean they're paying the entire $340,000? No. So they're paying 10% as a down payment. And it's 10%, so that calculates to 34,000. Good. So that means they're taking a mortgage for the rest of the condominium. So they're not actually taking a mortgage for $340,000. We have to calculate the amount they're taking the mortgage for. So we take $340,000 and we subtract our $34,000 down payment, which is $306,000. Okay? So they're taking a mortgage for $306,000. In terms of putting our numbers into our calculator, a mortgage is what? Does it stand for N, I, PV, PMT, FV, PY, CY, PMT? Anyone know? You're getting the money right now, and we're trying to determine their monthly payments. I'm going to tell you that's PMT. So what will this $306,000 stand for? The present value, that's right. That's the present value of the mortgage they're getting right now. So the present value, you would put in $306,000 into your calculators. Okay, so we have that part of the mortgage. That's how much they're actually taking out. Their percentage, they said, was 5.1% of interest rate. Okay, 5.1%. Now in the TMV solver, if you notice, it's in percent already, so you don't have to change it to a decimal. Your percentage is 5.1%. It says that it's going to compound your CY, semi-annually. How many times a year is that? Twice. Semi-annually is twice. How many payments do they make a year? Everyone read the bottom of the question? It says they're making monthly payments. 12. So the PY and the CY are two different numbers. Okay? It always changes. You'll have to fix it again. So your payments per year are 12. Compounding periods per year is 2. Future value we don't care about. Okay? It's going to be 0. We'll talk about that. And N. N is the number of compounding periods. They said this is a 25-year mortgage. Okay? And if it's compounding twice a year, your N will be 50. So that means we're trying to find this part here. So because we're trying to find that, also make sure our payments are at the end of the year. We put our cursor on PMT, then you guys hit alpha enter. My fault. Sorry, guys. The N was the number of payments they make a year, not compound periods. So it's not 12, or sorry, it's not 2. It's 12 times 25, because they make one payment per month, and they do it for 25 years. 12 times 25, 300. So your N should actually be 300. Now when you hit alpha enter, what do you guys get? 397. So, in terms of it was a multiple choice question on the test number 7. Page was it? Here. We zoom in. they're looking for A in this question. A would have been the answer you're looking for 7. So number 9 says, determine the interest earned by an ordinary simple annuity for $1,400 deposited each quarter for 9 years at 16.6% per year compounded quarterly. Okay, so like we talked about, you guys could use one of these two. These are annuities. Now, do they want the present value of this amount, or do they want the future value of what this money will be worth down the road? Future. So that means we're looking for our A. This would be the formula we could use if we were to do this by hand. If we're going to put it in our calculator, we'll put the same thing. Okay, so number 9. Let's talk about what's going on here. First of all, they're making regular payments every quarter of $1,400. Okay? On our calculator, the TMV. So the regular payments are $1,400. On our TVM solver, PMT stands for our regular payments, whether they're monthly, quarterly, daily. So that means for PMT, we're going to put in $1,400. Okay? It says that these payments are being made quarterly. So the compounding period, how many times a year is quarterly? 4. Good. So our compounding period is 4. So CY is the number 4. It also says he's making these payments quarterly. So that means the payments per year is also 4. So both those numbers are going to be the exact same. Okay? The interest rate was 16.6%. It's a high interest rate. And because this is set up with a percentage here, we don't have to change it to a decimal when we put it into the TVM solver. We're just going to put 16.6. Okay? Now, are we trying to find the present value or the future value in this question? Okay, we're trying to find the future value, how much this is worth down the road. So that means for present value, you guys put the number 0 in for that. Okay. Number of compounding periods, or the number of times he makes a deposit. It says he's going to do this for 9 years. And he's going to do it 4 times a year. So our N is going to be equal to what number? 36. Good. So then you take your cursor, highlight FV, and again, sorry, make sure PMT at the bottom is highlighted at N. And you guys are going to hit alpha enter. So we discovered that the future value of this money in 9 years after depositing that money, they'll have $112,083.95 in the bank. That's quite a bit of money. So let's actually figure out how much money this person deposited. If they deposited $1,400 every quarter, how many times a year did they put this amount of money into the bank? In total, that's right, 36 times. So each year they did it 4 times. Okay? So we take the $1,400. They're depositing it quarterly. So 4 times a year, they put this in the bank. So every year, this is how much money they're going to put into the bank. $5,600 is how much they deposit yearly. How many years was this annuity for? 9. So we're going to multiply this number by 9. We're going to get 0, 0, 5, 5, 0. Is that right? Okay, so what this means is this person deposited over 9 years $50,400. Okay? But in the end, their bank account was actually worth $112,000. Okay? So in that bank account was $112,083.95. They deposited $50,400. How much money did they earn in interest from this bank account? So this guy earned $61,683.95 in interest. That's a lot of interest. Okay? Let's try to make sure that this makes sense. Let's go back up. Anyone remember what the interest rate was? 16.6%. That's a very high interest rate. Okay? So On their last payment of the annuity, they would have had probably something like close to $100,000 in the bank, maybe like $90,000 in the bank. To earn 16% on something like $90,000 is almost another $16,000, probably something like 14. So this is a very high interest rate. So this amount makes sense. It's not too far off in terms of this annuity. Okay, so this is a logical answer because the interest rate is so high. Had it been a much lower interest rate, this would have been a lot of money to earn in terms of interest. In fact, they earned more interest than they actually put money into the bank. Okay? Safid arranges a mortgage for $170,000. He plans to repay the mortgage in equal monthly payments over 16 years at 3.2% per year, compounded semi-annually. That one sentence has a lot of information in it. It's very helpful if we underline and highlight important parts of information. So first of all, his mortgage is for $170,000. Is that a present value or a future value? That's a present value. So the mortgage is for $170,000. It says that he plans to repay on monthly payments.
It's a good test. It's a good test. Okay.
So monthly payments. So we're going to highlight that part. Monthly payments means how many times a year are they making a payment? How many times a year are they making a payment, guys? Ramel, how many times are they making payments monthly? So they're making 12 payments a year. Okay. It says that this is for 16 years. So in other words, we're going to put our YR here is equal to 16. It says that the interest rate is 3.2%. Okay. So our interest rate percentage is 3.2. And finally, compounded semi-annually. So the CY, compound periods per year, is equal to 2. So in that one sentence, I have at least 4 major bits of information. When you go through something like this on a test, make sure you highlight anything important or underline anything important on that test. Okay? Now the first question says, determine Safid's monthly payment complete with concluding sentence. So we're doing the exact same thing we did before. We have to figure out their monthly mortgage payment. So we figured out a lot of information on the page before. We said the present value of the mortgage was $170,000. We said that the interest rate was 3.2. The future value, what's the future value going to be in this case? 0. Okay? Our N, how many years is this mortgage for? 16 years. And they're making what kind of payments on this mortgage? Monthly, so 12 times a year. Good. When you put it in, your calculator will figure it out for you. 192. We're going to skip PMT because that's what we're trying to solve for. Those are the monthly payments of the mortgage. Okay. Payments per year, we discussed that already. It's 12. Compounding period, 2. What's the most a mortgage can compound in Canada? How many times a year? Semi-annually, which is how many times a year? 2. Good. Important to know that. Good knowledge in case the bank ever tries to get you to have more. Okay, so we have all this information. We highlight PMT and you hit alpha enter on your calculator. Okay, so what that means is this person's monthly mortgage payments are $1,130.74. That's reasonable. We could do that monthly.
And that's all 13.
That's 13A. You would also have to put a concluding sentence saying this Safid's monthly mortgage payment is $1,130.74 to get the communication question. All right, question B says, how much interest will Safid pay over the life of the mortgage? Complete with concluding sentence. How much interest? So let's go back to our other page here. How much interest? So first of all, how many payments did this person make? They made 192, okay? N is telling us how many payments they made. So they made 192 payments. How much was each of those payments for? Yeah, 1,000. So, over the life of this mortgage, how much money do they end up paying out to the bank or wherever the lender is? Okay, so what we just discovered now is that this guy, over the life of his mortgage, paid out $217,152. But the question asked us how much interest they paid. So we got to subtract that from actually how much money the bank had given him. How much money did the bank give him to start off? Anyone remember? How much money did the bank give us? Yes, the mortgage was $170,000. So that's how much money the bank gave you. So if the bank gave us $170,000 and the person paid off $217,152. Sorry, the number was 102.
Take a mark off, sir.
Okay. Either way, $50 less. So how much interest does this guy have to pay to the bank for borrowing that amount of money? 47,102. So he paid almost $50,000 in interest over 16 years to borrow $170,000 from the bank. He actually paid exactly $47,102 in interest. For question B, that would be these. Question C says, after one payment halfway through the amortization period, so that's about 8 years through this, okay? We've been paying off a mortgage for 8 years. The outstanding balance is $95,738.23. What percentage of the mortgage has been paid? So if the mortgage itself was a $170,000 mortgage, okay, and the outstanding balance is still $95,736.23, we need to find what percentage is left. So we're going to divide these two numbers. 95,736.23 divided by the mortgage itself, which is 170,000. This will give us a decimal number. Okay, so our decimal, did you get 0.563? 0.563. Okay, so here's our decimal. How do I turn that decimal into a percentage? Anyone know what you multiply by? Close. By 100. Multiply that by 100. That means there is 56.3% of the mortgage still left to pay. So halfway through this, I still haven't even paid down half the mortgage. What happens at the beginning of a mortgage is you're actually paying more of the interest than the principal. So halfway through it, you still owe more than half of the amount you borrowed. But towards the end of the mortgage, you start paying off more principal than you do interest. So the question asked, what percent of the mortgage will have been paid? Well, I think I got you off the hook here. The real answer to this would have been subtracting that amount from 100. Okay? From that 56, that means 44% of the mortgage has been paid. Okay? 44% of the mortgage has been paid halfway through. Okay, so I want you to keep that in mind. After 8 years, I still haven't paid off half of the mortgage. Question D says, in the same payment, Safid expects to pay $874 of the principal. Okay? How much of this payment pays the interest? So, this is what the trick was. Does anyone remember what the monthly payments were? The very first one we answered. Yes, $11.30 were the monthly payments. Very good. So because the monthly payments were $1,130, and he's paying $874.81 of principal. Is it PAL?
Yeah.
PAL. Okay, not the other principal. Okay? We got to figure out how much of this payment is interest. Okay? So first of all, we need to subtract that amount from the amount I'm paying. If they're paying $1,130 a month, and 874 of those dollars are principal, how much of it is interest? So, of this amount, $255.19 is interest. That's an amount. Okay? So of that payment, $255 is interest. The interest they're paying to the bank. The question asked us, is it a percentage they want? Oh, they didn't even want a percent. How nice. This was strictly a subtracting question. You just had to think about what was entitled. You needed to know what the monthly payment was, and you needed to subtract the principal. So they're paying $255 in interest. So this payment is going a lot farther in terms of paying down principal than the first payment of a mortgage would, because we're now halfway through it.